Your fatigue was enormous. The price for encountering pure evil. Hell was a place no mortal was meant to experience. Stupid military doctors. Their tests and treatments were of little help. In the end, what did it matter? It was all classified and sealed. The nightmares continued. Demons. So many demons. Relentless. Pouring through. The planetary policy was clear. An absolute quarantine was guaranteed by apocalyptic levels of radiation. The empty dark corridor stand motionless, abandoned. The installation sealed. A long-forgotten relay satellite, barely executing, decayed by years of bombarding neutrons, activates and sends its final message to Earth. The satellite's message was horrific. From the planetary void, there came energy signatures unlike anything sampled before. The classified archives are open. The military episodes code-named Doom were not completed. A single entity with vast rejuvenation powers, masked by the extreme radiation levels, escaped detection. In its crippled state, it systematically altered decaying dead carnage back into corrupted living tissue. The mutations are devastating. The demons have returned even stronger and more vicious than before. As the only experienced survivor of the Doom episode, your commission is reactivated. Your assignment is clear. Merciless extermination.
Oh, that hurts so fucking bad. Ugh.
Doom! It's quite a well-known series, which needs a little introduction to understand just how much of an influence it is. It is the first-person shooter, which ended up giving us Quake, which gave us Half-Life, which gave us Halo, Call of Duty. Nearly almost all of the modern shooter genre has its roots back in Doom and Quake. Tangentially, it also is the root of many a controversy, particularly in regards to old people believing it to be the inspiration for violence in adolescence, along with games like Night Trap and Mortal Kombat. Primarily in relation to the events of the 1999 Columbine shootings, God rest the souls of those affected by the shootings. Doom and its consequences have been a great influence for the future of video game development. They've greatly increased the level of fun and ingenious designs of independent efforts, but they have also indirectly caused a stagnation in modern military shooters with little innovations to be made in a formula which is very heavily relied on. I'm not going to talk about Doom though. It's been on everything since the dawn of time. I'm sure I can play it on a pacemaker or a fucking Olympus digital camera, and Doom 2 will have to wait until I can give it a fair shot on the Game Boy Advance port. I mostly want to talk about Doom 64, the original Doom 3, the original Doom Eternal, and also the best looking of the original Doom games, bar none, with the best atmosphere, lighting, graphics, arguably even sound. And I will not argue about this. I don't have a whole lot of history with any of these games, though. I was always vaguely aware of Doom. I was a shitty teen watching Doom WOD videos, but I hadn't taken any interest in it at that time, as I was more obsessed with Call of Duty Black Ops, because online multiplayer gave me a dopamine rush like no other, when I got a sick-ass kill cam, and I could piss off some mid-20s guy on the other end of the mic. And not only that, but I had played a little bit of Doom 3 on the OG Xbox port when I was 8 at my cousin's house, but because it wasn't multiplayer like Halo 2, I wasn't all that interested in watching it. I was also probably scared out of my wits, but I don't remember that era of my life very. Oh, and for any Doom 3 haters in here, or any elitists that say that one version is better than the other,
Get the fuck out of here!
Besides that, we appreciate Doom and what it did for the series here. Doom was always intended to be horror. Doom 64 is living, breathing proof of that. Just look at this shit. New scary sprites based on 3D models, the lighting, the Baron of Hell tearing me to shreds while I space out in the middle of gameplay. The feeling of horror in original Doom is sort of muddled by the limits of the engine and the art style, but the theme of horror is expressed through both monster design and level design and aesthetics, less so than the actual music or gameplay. You have greater aspects of the world design, like the twisted, horrified faces and gore-ridden halls of the original games, and it composes a decent amount of the level design when not staged in, say, the UAC facilities. But don't get me wrong, I love the strange level designs of these games. For a good portion of the locales, there's a lack of coherence, though, in the expression of these themes, but that's in service of the gameplay. A game wouldn't be fun if the mechanics of Doom and Doom 2 science fiction horror shooters were stretched over a realistic environment. Loss of horror is also present through the music, but that's not really a complaint. The music of the original 2 Doom games works in service of the gameplay and level design. You get some recreations and reinterpretations of popular rock and metal tracks of the era, some really atmospheric and haunting themes, very thematic and ambient feeling ones, and bone-chilling symphonies by Bobby Prince, both for Doom 1 and 2. Particularly more in the favor of 1. 2 seems to have less of a focus on that rock and metal reinterpretation focus. He thought most of his rock recompositions weren't up to snuff for the game, ironically, but arguably Bobby Prince thought that a lot of his rock compositions weren't up to snuff for the game, but arguably the quicker paced themes match very well with the quick movement and knee-jerk reactions the games ask of you. But that's not the point of this video. The Nintendo 64 was an interesting console. 64 bits of power, only held back by Nintendo's insistence on cartridge-based media storage to combat piracy, which was all to ineffective. Its controller was really intuitive for the time, with the ability to switch between a solid D-pad over to a slightly middling joystick, which admittedly was used really well in many games. It was just designed poorly. No wonder 63% of these controllers in circulation have fucking joysticks. Don't you even think about buying a modernization of the N64 controller? You are weak-willed and you will not survive the winter. But the pure 3D power of the N64 allowed for console first-person shooters with slightly higher qualities than those of the PlayStation 1. When making a comparison of many first-person shooters, even the bad ones, the N64's smooth polygons and lack of affine texture warping gives most games with ports across these two consoles a clear graphical edge over Sony's disc-based powerhouse. One interesting tidbit about Doom, however, is that the PS1, while getting Doom and Final Doom, which were technically expansion on Doom 1 and Doom 2's levels, sort of mashed together into these two packages, the N64 didn't get a port of those at all. Rather, in the basement of Midway and id Software, a new creature was being concocted. The love child of these two developers, Doom 64, is an all-original campaign consisting of 30-plus levels with a few extras in the 2020 re-release, new graphics, new weapons, an all-new ambient and ominous score. This game could be considered less of an expansion pack, something which builds upon the foundation of the original games, and more of a proper sequel, what I would consider a proto-Doom 3. In the good old Carmack fashion, the story is pretty much irrelevant. It's beyond parody at this point for any John Carmack joint to be plot-heavy or have a plot with much depth at all. Haha, story in games, porn not needed, nah, we get it. It's been done to death. The story can go a long way in giving a game an extra kick to the player as their motivator.
In Doom 64, you play as the same guy who got shipped off to the UAC base in the first two games. No amount of doctors could help fix your brain after what you witnessed, but you were still left on call in the event of another demonic invasion attempt. Lo and behold, your time has come as demons have once again been resurrected to cause havoc by the Mother Demon herself. You now must take up arms and abandon and quarantine UAC Space Lab. At least at first it seems that way. As you make your way through to the final outpost, you see that the demons have led you into an all too simple fight, bringing you back to their hellish homeworld. This doesn't affect you in the slightest. You're back in your element. Time to take the fight directly to the Mother Demon and end her and her demonic invasion for good. Or at least that's how the story seems while playing. During some of the in-between level downtime, there's minor bits of exposition told in second person to the player. It doesn't amount to much other than the bits of text to explain the changing of scenery. The level structure itself is rather interesting, with the order of levels being very cohesive and fitting within the themes of each chunk of levels. You begin in the UAC facility, charging through each area with your arsenal of weapons to push you even further. Then after beating Final Outpost, you're transported to Hell, where you bring utter hellfire down upon the legions of demons in their own home city. There's a good bit of world building in these latter levels as well, with large, sprawling structures housing all kinds of sick traps and terrifying encounters. Ancient libraries, dungeons, pyramids, castle-like structures, all with a beautiful focus on Gothic architecture, which comprises the back half of this game. The levels themselves tell the story of this game more than the actual written text. For example, during level 12, Altar of Pain, a level with an overt fortress design, the player treks their way up to the top of the fortress after defeating legions of the damned, and upon entering the final chamber at the top, the door shuts closed, locking the player in with a terrifying 5 Barons of Hell. But resting atop the shrine across the room sits the Unmaker, a gun forged from the flesh and bones of demonic origin, which fires a stream of red lasers, but which can also be upgraded through the discovery of the Demon Keys, 3 secret artifacts which are hidden in the secret levels, which I will get into more later. Finding this freakish alien gun gives the player a boost to their arsenal and enhances the chance to escape this room in one piece. And god damn do I ever love the Unmaker. Pun completely intended. But as I was saying, the level design, order of levels, and small scenarios within each level do enhance the experience of Doom 64 in terms of giving it a deeper story. After ending up on the outskirts of Hell from the Final Outpost teleport, the player slowly drags himself closer and closer to the true enemy. From fortress to castle, from crypts to ancient pyramids, an arena where a lone Marine takes down the Mother Demon. At the end of the arduous fight, the Marine swears to remain in Hell to put a stop to any future ambitions of demonic invasion. For the 2020 re-release of Doom 64 by Night Dive Studios, the boomer shooter necromancers themselves ended up putting in an extra campaign comprised of a handful of levels to tie the end of Doom 64 into the modern Doom games. After being trapped in Hell, another army of demons begins to be formed under the alliance of the Sister Resurrector, a monster in kin to the Mother Demon. As a typical affair for the Marine, he goes and puts an end to this new uprising. But upon defeating the Mother Resurrector, she warps him off to another dimension, where after some necessary upgrades, he ends up buried deep underground, only to be found by this dimension's UAC and Samuel Hayden. Thus begins Doom and Doom Eternal. Or so I think. As of writing this video, I'm still catching up on my FPS backlog. Quake and Doom 3 are still in progress, and I barely scratched the surface of Doom 2016, nor have I even touched Eternal. But just give me a few months and maybe I'll follow up my opinions on those proper, but something bigger than those looms upon my horizon.
You're gonna be right there with the flag.
All Doom stories, be it through explicit text or expressed in more subtle ways, have always been secondary to everything else about these games, though. If you want story, there's, the novelizations, Doom 3, or the fucking movies. I don't know how many times I can allude to the story in these games being little of use without running out of ways to make jabs at John Carmack. I love you, Mr. Carmack. What am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? Oh, Nintendo. How I do love some of the things you do. Your insistence on cartridges was not one of them. Not all is grim, though. Even though the limits of cartridge space were felt during the development of Doom 64, the graphics and sound as an entire overhaul of classic Doom are gorgeous. All the viscera and scary-ass demons of Doom have been redone in a beautiful new look. You know Donkey Kong Country, Mortal Kombat, and other various games with that distinct graphical style of the 90s, which we don't really return to, unfortunately? Doom 64 utilizes a similar method for its monsters and environmental flourishes. First, create a new look for the classic Doom monsters. You take those 3D models and then make, snapshots of key poses and a few in-betweens. Then you use those for sprites within the game. Some monsters look like one-to-one recreations of certain enemies from their 1993 counterparts. Others have entirely new styles, which, they lend themselves well to the new tone set by the level aesthetics, music, and sound. The Zombie Men, the Hell Knights, the Pinkies, all dead giveaways for their PC originals, yeah? But here's the Cacodemon, here's the Pain Elemental, here are the Imps. They're beautifully redone to look more menacing, to fit the gothic horror well. Especially props to the Cacodemon for being just a cute little meatball, and the Pain Elemental for looking a lot more interesting and easy to understand in their design. They've got the 2 mouth cavities along the sides, almost as if they're like arms, and one big one in the middle where they spit out the lost souls. It gives a feeling of extra biology to these monsters, which I really do truly enjoy. The original PC demons are cute and strike a good balance between being simplistic and stylized well, but there's an appeal to these 3D models which edges out over my enjoyment of the originals. The monsters are only one part of a huge whole that is Doom. The levels comprise another good portion of this good boomer shooter stew. Like a fine beef broth, you need the bones to be good and flavorful, while the level designs and graphical enhancements present are not just the bones, and the level design and graphical enhancements present are the yellow mustard, fennel, cracked peppercorn.
Okay, fun fucking fact, I couldn't figure out what the fuck to say. I even wrote it in the script. Like, I will pull up the script right fucking now. I'm editing this. It's the 23rd of February. I'm trying to get this shit out before the end of the month. Let me show you what I wrote down. Let me show you what I wrote down on the fucking script. Okay. The monsters are only one part of a huge whole that is Doom. The levels comprise another good portion of the good boomer shooter stew. Like a fine beef broth, you need the bones to be good and flavorful. The level design and graphical enhancements present are the bones, and the yellow mustard, fennel, and peppercorns. That should have been broken up, where I say that, this was a dumb fucking analogy. This was stupid. This is stupid. Why did I write this? Can you tell that I'm a fucking terrible writer? Because I'm kind of a shit-ass writer. Fuck this stupid shit. Alright, you know what? Here, how about you go back to your stupid fucking, how about you go back to your stupid fucking video?
Why did I fucking do that? That's a dumb bit. That's a stupid fucking bit. I've already explained the varied locales depicted in 64, ranging from the first chunk of decommissioned UAC facility levels to the outskirts of Hell itself, charging deep into the center after taking out fortresses and castles armed by the dead. These levels feature revamped textures, new lighting, and set pieces. A couple of standout levels are Altar of Pain, Dark Citadel, Eye of the Storm, Dark Entries, Watch Your Step, The Spiral, and No Escape. These also sound like great shitty grunge bands. Altar of Pain's fortress styling and tall walls to scale hide good secrets and tough enemies. But I've already sung the praises of that level to high hell already, just kinda gotta play it yourself. Dark Citadel is also a pretty locale. A little whining in its design admittedly, but through the player's speed, backtracking through these trap-filled corridors and monster-infested areas is almost pleasant. Large sprawling statues in a courtyard, maze-like libraries, a side room in the main hall with moonlight streaming through the window, wooden support beams lining every hall, and gore strung up on hooks and chains. The spiral with an open-top tower aesthetic, and wooden scaffolding and staircases being the domicile of an unending demon attack. Easy as hell to beat if you know what you're looking for, as it only took me 3 minutes to beat it on the second hardest difficulty. Burnt Offerings drops you in a courtyard overlooked by an interior with traps and tough enemies dispersed throughout the level. When spawning into the level, there is a small alcove directly across from the player where they're set in the Arachnotron. Eye of the Storm has another fortress-like structure, which starts at a moat at the ground level. Looking up, purple skies and ferocious demons reside above the starting point, making for an atmospheric, intense gameplay feel. Staging area, the opening level, makes use of the custom lighting afforded by the N64 in unique ways, introducing the colored lighting and structures within to cast light from torches along the walls, and an entire room dedicated to a lighthouse-like structure, which really starts to flex what they could do with the hardware. Not only that, the lighting is used in gameplay scenarios as well, with many traps having solutions uniquely tied to lighting as hints to escape death. Perfect example of which comes from the second level, the Terraformer. Oh, and Spawn Fear. Fuck Pain Elementals. If you can recall, I mentioned that Doom 64's explicit horror tones weren't backed by the rock and metal-inspired soundtracks of anything akin to Doom 1 or 2, but rather with droning ambience and unnerving synth soundscapes. We have the wonderful Aubrey Hodges to thank for doing the soundtrack for not only Doom 64, but also the PS1 ports of Doom, Final Doom, Quake, Quake 2. He predated the atmosphere-heavy ambient soundtrack done by Trent Reznor for the PC original Quake, even, and then continued to innovate on that through his time doing music for the various ports and expansions of those games. Real briefly here, I'll play some of my favorite tracks of his, not only from Doom 64, but from his greater catalog. Truly spectacular stuff. If you think his stuff is as good as I do, I'd recommend you make a purchase off the man's Bandcamp. He has some truly wonderful skills in making ambient droning music. Okay, let's talk about the fucking gameplay. If you haven't played Doom in some form, I have to assume you're either lying or you're an infant. I was surprised to learn that not long ago that even my niece owns Doom 2016 on her Nintendo Switch with busted-ass jank Joy-Cons. They're well revered in very basic games. Across all Doom games, the gameplay loop is simple: run around sprawling levels, gunning down anything that moves, while grabbing keys and hitting switches to progress further into each level until you find the exit. Simple to a T. Where it begins to be morphed and changed to avoid stagnation is through its level design. Like how I explained the level design, creating interesting narratives to play through, and the beautiful sights within them, the scenarios present throughout each level of Doom 64 will always keep you on your toes with varied events. There's a primary focus on unique puzzles consisting of searching for switches to hit, keys to grab, or specific monsters to kill to proceed deeper into each stage. And while some solutions aren't exactly obvious, like switches hidden in 2 spots, with a stupid fucking final outpost yellow keycard puzzle, which, let me just explain to you how fucking long it took for me to find that keycard. Just look it up. I was quite literally losing my gourd playing this level, running back and forth in the little room, and I was like, okay, well if this drops down the thing, but it also brings down the gate, and running over to this one pulls up the gate, but brings the fucking platform up, what do I do? You want to know what the fucking solution is? You bring it down to the ground level. You look at the fucking texture on the floor between the bars and the actual keycard,
And you're supposed to just put together like, oh, that's the same pattern of this stupid fucking wall texture in the hallway outside. And then you just tap that shit and you get your key card. It's fucking stupid. Stupid. That's the one thing I will absolutely say is that some fucking puzzles in this game, some puzzles and some traps, be just a little fucking obtuse. A little obtuse. I just ended up looking up a game facts guide on how to get the fucking key card. Oh yeah, just touch the wall tile. That's not a fucking puzzle. That's not a puzzle. That's only one, correlating thing between the solution and the actual puzzle itself. That's fucking stupid. At the end of the day, I feel like the UAC's Royal Dipshit Marine. Technically, that's really the only standout thing that really bugged me about the gameplay and level design. Demon keys, burnt offerings, plasma gun, arrow trap. If you die here, you have to actually pistol start the entire level, and your unmaker demon keys get reset to 0. Which, to iterate on, the demon key system is a little fucking jank. Upon death, you start at square one. That's nothing new. They did that for almost all Doom games, whatever. Getting around that in the 2020 re-release is simple as just reloading your save. See, I hope you're getting rather familiar with the concept of save scumming. Gonna do that quite a bit if you want to get the fully upgraded Unmaker. See, if you'd like to seek out the demon keys to upgrade the gun, you've got to find the secret levels, and then you've got to make your way through those levels while seeking the keys themselves. They're a hidden item in there, you don't get them at the end as a reward. And then, once you're out of there, in order to hold on to them, don't fucking die. Don't die. Because you will lose it. So you gotta get through that entire game without dying if you're going for some super difficult run, which is fucking bullshit. Stupid. I'll get into the extra reasons why you really want to keep the demon keys with you, because it brings up one more big point I tend to knock the game for. The demon key system isn't something that's really present in any other classic Doom game. It's a side quest of sorts. It's something completely unrelated to the main ending of the game in terms of story, but in terms of progression, it makes things go a whole lot faster, but it's not mandatory in the slightest. I'd like to think of it as the precursor to the weapon and suit upgrading systems present in Doom 2016, where you have the Praetor tokens, rune challenges, and suit upgrades found in hidden areas and strewn about the natural progression of the game. The only problems with the demon keys, though, in this game are that just losing them upon death is such a pain in the fucking ass. That and the methods to finding the secret levels border on being playground rumor levels of bullshit and obtuseness. Obtuseness? Obtusivity? Not to mention that the levels themselves are interesting, but definitely a test of patience. For unlocking the cheats and features menu, you have to start in staging area by shooting exploding barrels in a certain order. But don't leave the area, because if you leave the area, you fuck up. So after you break the barrel that's in the end of the level, you gotta hotfoot your way back, use the teleporter to teleport yourself back up onto the main area, blow up this one barrel at the start, but don't fucking shoot it just immediately. You probably want to save your game first, or, just get fucking ready. Destroy this specific barrel, dart into this secret area, and then flip up a wall, and then go into the actual teleporter to get to the secret level, Hectic, level 32. This level is a test of fucking patience, where everything is out to kill you, and Satan will curb stomp your balls. I mean it. I'm talking about turning your shit into fucking dust. Just watch me fail this. But enough bitching. There's more to talk about in regards to Doom. The weapon lineup of Doom 64 is identical to that of Doom 1 and 2, albeit redone with the real snazzy 3D model sprites. The Unmaker is the newest addition, which, once the demon keys are acquired, boosts the usage of cells, albeit while making it so that you shoot multiple lasers at a time instead of just one hit-scanning tracing beam. You've got the pistol, the shotgun, the super shotgun, the plasma rifle, the chain gun, the rocket launcher, the chainsaw. Again, did I mention the chainsaw? No, that was chain gun. Fuck. And your fist if you're really shit out of luck. Your pistol is your basic weapon. It's alright. No real point to using it unless you don't have a chain gun or you fucked up and don't want to reload your save. Next is your basic shotgun. Fires relatively quickly and uses 1 shell per shot. The super shotgun, which is a double barrel shotgun, packs a wallop. The damage fall off at medium to high range is a bit bunk, but in close quarters encounters, which this game likes to accost you with, pretty much going to be your bread and butter. You're going to whip that thing out
fucking load in a couple of shells, lack that shit back, and you're gonna take out a Hell Knight in like 3 hits at close range. You're gonna mow through your basic imps and zombie men, and it just completely steamrolls anything that isn't like flying or a fucking huge mancubus or anything like that. Next up is your chain gun. It uses your basic ammunition clips, same as the pistol, which, as before, you're not going to want to use the pistol after you get the chain gun. It's wonderful for stunning bigger beasts like cacodemons, pain elementals, and arachnotrons, or for crowd control against pinkies, zombie men, and the fucking lost souls. Rocket launcher. Don't use it against pain elementals. Plasma rifle. Decently heavy hitting, good for crowd control. Use it against what you want, but if you've got the BFG or the Unmaker, don't use it. The cell ammunition is highly coveted, and is also used by those too. For the BFG, it shoots a big tracer that goes far and just explodes out and attacks anything nearby. It's pretty good. It's got a bit of a debuff in this game, but that isn't to the detriment of the game. The chainsaw is also rather nice, since enemies will most likely be stunned due to its grappling effect, and with enemies like zombies, imps, and pinkies, it just chews through them like nothing. And if you're encountering a room with nothing but pinkies, just use the chainsaw. It's even something explicitly shown in staging area with a pinky being put behind the player on higher difficulties in the first hallway, and the lighthouse room of the same level, populated by nothing but pinkies and a zombie man behind a wall on higher difficulties. That's good. It's rather unnecessary to speak on the monsters as a whole, since they're simple, and many go unchanged from their original PC renditions. The few that there are that get changed are just minor changes, as the Arachnotrons now fire 2 streams of less powerful plasma shots instead of 1. Hell Knights and Hell Barons now can fight one another, and there's a distinct difference between the way these two look, one red and one green. And the Lost Souls now have been slightly rebalanced, so more can be pitted against the player. For new additions, you've got the aforementioned Mother Demon, but there's the now new Nightmare Imp, a sort of shadowy, almost semi-transparent imp that can move extra fast and shoot flaming purple fireball. As a whole, the full enemy lineup isn't too interesting on their own, but more so in how they relate to the level design of Doom 64. In my case, I played on I Own Doom, which is this game's hard mode, which, if you're unaware, the difficulty of enemies and enemy population of every level is affected by the difficulty. I'd recommend starting on Bring It On if you're not confident in your abilities or aren't familiar with old FPS games. It's definitely not the hardest boomer shooter. I'd be willing to call Heretic or Blood the hardest of those, but by the time you get to the final boss of this game, you should have sharpened your skills enough to take the Mother Demon on and be confident enough to bring her down. She's a bit of a pain in the ass if you didn't add the demon keys, which I've already explained how those are a pain in the ass in their own right. If you had had them, you could have shut off the spawners around the room to prevent the final flood of demons from being unleashed and eviscerate the Mother Demon with a fully powered Unmaker. But as I'm not a fucking maniac, I don't do 100% game runs, so that'll be left to other better players. Circle strafing around the Mother Demon after ridding the area of most of the minor demons only kind of works, as she has this homing fireball attack which does a fuck ton of damage, and it eats through most health and armor. If you're able to spawn her in and have her unaware up on the altar where she spawns, a good method of defeating her is by using the Unmaker or BFG to knock off most of her health, then loading her with any of the remaining high-power artillery that you have in your arsenal. I was able to do that on the second highest difficulty, no problem. That's besides the point, though. As Doom 64's level design and enemy placement makes this campaign arguably the best of the classic Doom games. Knee-deep in the Dead through Doom's shareware release may have had the most iconic levels in all of Doom, aside from Doom 2 city levels. Doom 64 feels like a proper culmination of id designer supervision mixed with proper fresh ideas from the newbies at Midway. There's a couple of stumbles along the way, particularly regarding secret levels, traps, and a lack of multiplayer, but even with those admittedly minor downsides, Doom 64 reigns over the originals through certain aspects of the game's design. It's just the linking of modern and classic Doom through each finer point of this that really starts to keep them out over the classics. And, the ties to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal through the Lost levels are admittedly very interesting. The soundtrack was wonderful, it looked amazing, it plays like a charm even now, and it's not fucking TNT Evolution. Roll the fucking ending montage. I'm done. I'm done with this. I've been on Stradiol for like a week now. Talking about Doom. I'm getting this fucking video out before March. If I don't get this out before March, if you see that this video goes up March 1 through 31, I think it's got 31 days in March. Fucking nuke me from orbit. Drop an anvil on my head, fucking cartoon style, like, whoa, whoa. Turn into an accordion.